People, policies, and procedures. Hey, could your business benefit from a franchise structure? Let's discuss it on this edition of the Pest Geek Podcast. Pull out your hose and grab your can. We're about to integrate another Pest Geek Podcast. Hi, everybody. Frank Hernandez here, and welcome to the Pest Geek Podcast, bringing you the latest information on pests, products, and politics from today's leading industry sources to help you start, manage, and grow your pest control business. Hey there, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Pest Geek Podcast. If my voice cracks or it doesn't sound the same, it's probably because I have a cold. My daughter got a cold in school and just pretty much has shared it with the entire family, and we've all been under the weather, so my voice is not as it normally is. So please forgive me if I sound really horrible. But in any case, I am so excited to be here sharing with you things that I've experienced and things that I've come across. And everybody's experience is a little different. But I believe in learning from other people's experiences and other people's knowledge. And it has helped me greatly. So I decide to share the things that I've gone through and the things that I have experienced, and it could help you. Not everything is applicable, but not everything is totally useless, I would like to think. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening every week. If you're listening to the podcast, if you're new to the podcast, you can, we are an industry podcast devoted to the pest control professional and how to help you grow and manage your pest control business, even started from the ground up. And we can be found on Facebook. You can look for Pest Geek Podcast, one word, on Facebook. And we've got a Facebook page there with a lot of information from other sources and stuff that we put out. Our blog and our podcast can be heard there. And also, if you are a Twitter user, you can look for us at Pest Geek Podcast on Twitter. And there we have the news feed, and we have about half a dozen articles rolling out per day on different things from integrated pest management to lawn care to gardening to horticulture, depending on whatever field that you're in, that you would find some useful information there from really good sources. And also on our website, www.pestgeekpodcast.com. You actually don't even need the www anymore. If you just put in pestgeekpodcast.com, you will get there. And so that's pretty cool. I'd like to give a special shout out this week to the Northeastern IPM Center, who likes our podcast, and some other people have been on the show before, and they are out of Cornell University in Ithaca, New York. So thank you guys for sharing, liking the podcast, and sharing our tweets and everything that you guys are doing. Glad to see it's useful and that you guys can use it for other people, and glad to have you here. I wanted to talk to you. Last week we were talking about finding your niche and filling it. And, I heard that when I was younger and I was trying to learn business, and people would talk about people's niche. And the problem with me, and I think it's a problem with a lot of people, is that we're so good at doing a lot of things that we feel we can be good at all of them. And the reality is that we can't. If we wanted to be really excellent, we really need to specialize and focus. And that's really the whole issue behind niching. But also what I wanted to do is this week talk about policies and procedures. And I know what you're thinking. Oh my gosh, this is like too corporate-y for me. I just left a structured corporate environment, and the last thing I want to do is be structured and corporate-y. And I tell you to keep an open mind, because if you just came out of a highly structured environment where everybody was a control freak, you're going to have issues with it, especially if you're entrepreneurial and you're kind of a free spirit like I am. Very difficult for us to manage that. And it's very difficult for me to sometimes want to go back to that. But I realized that if I wanted to have more time, if I wanted to do more, if I wanted to have more time available for my personal things and for my family and to grow my business and teach others in my business how to be the best they can be, then I had to have policies and procedures before people. And here's why. You say, well, people come first. And I said, the whole reason that we have policies and procedures for people, because policies and procedures aren't in themselves any useful if people aren't utilizing them. And what we got to make sure is that our policies and procedures that we have are thoroughly thought through. And this can go all the way from policies and procedures to how you hire, who you hire, why you hire, to policies and procedures on how to do the business or how to do a specific portion of that business. And I'll tell you, it goes all the way back, going back 20-something years to my technical background in computer science. And the most highly structured people that I know are computer programmers. Very, very highly structured, because coding requires structure and requires procedures and policies. Engineers. Some of my best friends are engineers. Some of the best salespeople that I know are engineers because they're highly structured. And so I've learned from a lot of people and a lot of things how to be structured, especially when I'm not a structured person. And a lot of us aren't. And I think that's the key to understanding. And what I am talking about in structure and policies and procedures is that you are able to, number one, the benefits of it. And I want to talk to you about that. The three things that you will be able to appreciate is, number one, is you're going to have a better, more predictable result. And I am not talking that if you have a policy and a procedure for everything, that you're not going to have exceptions. There's always going to be exceptions to manage. I tend to use the 80-20 principle, try to apply that to everything I do. The Pareto principle, which states that pretty much 20% of your effort is going to produce 80% of your results. And if you look at our economic system and things like that, you will understand that the principle is pretty much spot on. So with standardization, you get a better, more predictable result. There's less ambiguity and confusion when dealing with customers, with employees, with suppliers. It also lowers the learning curve for new people in this industry. And I learned it from a company that, not related to pest control, but it is one of the most successful companies in the world, and that's McDonald's. And I didn't say that McDonald's had the best food in the world. They don't. Actually, I try not to eat there very often. But I can't argue with their success and the way they do business. And one of the things that is astonishing about McDonald's is that you can get the lowest skilled worker possible. And I know what you're thinking. Every time I go there, they mess up my order. Yes, but it doesn't happen every time, everywhere, in every location. There's always exceptions. But what policies and procedures are going to have to do, because think about it this way. You and I probably have been in this industry longer than most people. 10 years, 20 years, 40 years, 50 years. Some people have been in this here longer. And what I've learned is that if you're getting somebody in, what you want to be able to do as a professional is you instantly want to transmit to them your knowledge. And most technicians are not very good trainers, because what they want to do is they understand they've been doing it so long and they can't understand how this person can't pick it up any faster. Very impatient. And my patience in training has to go back all the way back to my days doing support, IT support, where I had to take people that knew nothing about computers and talk them through a process of most of the time fixing things on the phone. This is where I get my sales strategy for the phone, where I do most of what I can do on the phone because I can walk you through processes and help you understand. And my patience in training has to do with the way that I standardize everything. And I have a process that I put you through so that you can learn quickly. By the time a store manager with me his computer would go down, before it got to the point that before he even called me, he would go on his computer. I taught him how to get, which is very dangerous to a lot of people, but I knew who I could trust with this. And I would show them how to get to a command prompt. And when they would call me, they says, I'm already at a command prompt. What do you want me to do? And I would be able to walk them through this process of fixing this over the phone, because I could probably fix it in 15, 20 minutes, and it would take me 45 minutes to an hour to drive there. And I could have him do it a whole lot more efficiently. And that is the whole issue of leadership and management, is getting things done through other people. It's not about you being able to do everything yourself. And a lot of people who are technicians, who are self-employed, who are solopreneurs, feel that they are the only ones that can ever do this. And if you want to grow your business from 1 tech to 2 tech to 3 techs, you need to start doing now the things that are going to enable you to speed up that process, to lessen the pain of hiring, lessen the pain of training. And I have procedures that I worked with a company to do a psychological profile of who I am looking for as a tech versus somebody who says, I'm good at everything, I can do anything, I need a job, please hire me. I'm looking for aptitudes and attitudes that are going to lead to success. I'm not looking for a duplicate of me, because I'm not going to find it. I tried. I failed miserably at it. So now everything is about procedures that enable people to catch on quicker, do their job better, function better, and produce a better result for the client. Because maybe you just want to golf more. Maybe you want to fish more. Maybe you don't want to grow. You just want to have more time. Maybe you want to be able to grow your business another 10, 20% without having to hire another person. And if you standardized a lot of the things that you now do, you would find you have more time. And that's what this is all about. Okay. You start hearing things when you hire your first technician. Here's the classic example of what you got to be prepared for. You hire your first technician. Here's what you hear. Frank, he doesn't do it the same way you did it. As a matter of fact, with you, I never had a problem. Now I'm having this problem and that problem and the other problem. Probably because he is not doing the same things that I used to do, because he can't remember every step that I took when I took him for 3 months on that route. I got people that worked with me for a year and they were still asking me the same questions a year later that they should have known, because they spent a year with me in the field working side by side me, and they should have known this, and they still didn't. And what I found is that my method of training had to go back to a systematic approach to training versus I am going to transfer knowledge of training. If you wait until you got to hire your first guy, you're going to go through one heck of a process. Most people have never hired anybody. As a technician, you've never hired a single person in your life. You don't know what it's like to go through the interviewing process. You don't know what it's like to hire the wrong employee, invest 6 months in them, watch your sales go down, and have to invest time and money in hiring another person because you hired the wrong person. See, most have never gone through that process, and it is very, very, very exhausting and painful. But it doesn't have to be. So those are the things that you have to look forward to. Now, here's where it starts with. And I'm going to show you very simple technique to start. This isn't easy, by the way. This is not going to be easy for a lot of people. but it is simple. And there's a big difference. You got to start your journey of standardization to looking at, start somewhere and start doing it. If you look at trying to do everything for everything in your business, you're going to be overwhelmed and you're not going to move forward. Start in an area that you know as a technician what is the most important thing, and it's obviously training people to do technical work as a technician. Start there. Start by journaling and documenting in writing everything that you're doing step by step. See, I have a step-by-step procedure for every pest that we handle. Okay? And it isn't spraying everything. That's not our procedure. But do you have a different procedure if you're going to do, and you know this because intuitive you do this because you know it. You're in the business. But you don't think of it in the form of a process. You think of it more as something you do intuitively because you know, because you've been doing it for so long. Second, you might try to train the same way you were trained, which could be disastrous because you remember that frustrating process. Maybe you were lucky enough to get a person that was a good trainer. Because just because you're a good technician doesn't make you a good trainer. And a lot of the best technicians sometimes are terrible trainers. They don't have the patience. So journaling everything that you do. In other words, and then what this is going to do is this is going to confront you with your own standardization. And you saying, is this really necessary what I'm doing to get to control? And you will perfect it over time. You're not going to perfect it on a first draft. Okay. So you document. So in other words, it could be as simple as you create this manual that has a tab on it that says external flea control, lawn flea control, outdoor flea control. And you say, when you're doing outdoor flea control, and you line it in little steps, you don't want to write a PhD dissertation for somebody to read in the field. It's a field manual that you're writing. And you say, you're going to use this insecticide, which is a microencapsulated insecticide, and you're going to use so much per gallon for so many square feet outside. And you're going to add this IGR to it. And this is your combination product. And this is how much you're going to put. And you're going to apply it this way. And you're going to apply it to the lawn. And then you're going to do this. And then you have it stepped out. What happens is a technician rides with you for 3 months in a truck. And now you do a flea treatment. And you might not do another flea treatment for another month. And you did a rodent treatment. And you did a rodent exclusion. And you did a rodent this and a rodent that. And everything has a different, and he can't remember. Because he's doing the work, focusing on what, but he's not going back and has notes on what everything that you did. And trying to do notes in the field as you're training somebody becomes very impatient for a lot of people, especially the trainer. So now you have a flea control protocol, which is really what it is. Next, you have a German roach protocol. You have an American cockroach. Whatever you're dealing with the most, that's what you cover. And what happens if there's an exception? In programming and in programming language, there is a thing called an if-then statement. And meaning if the person runs into this problem here, then you write an if-then statement and then it goes to here. And you do that. Okay, if this happens and you are not getting control, then you need to look at this, 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 and this. But don't get them to do 1,000 things at first when you know that these 3 procedures by themselves, 80% of the time gets you control. 80%. And what you're concerned is you manage the 20. You're never going to get 100% on anything. We know this in this business. It doesn't exist. So what you're going to do, you have a procedure. It begins with documentation. It's as simple as a 1-page bulleted step-by-step procedure. Documentation is going to help you evaluate and improve upon your procedures. Your documentation will become your training manual for the future, to where you do not personally have to be there every moment of every day to manage every little problem because you want to be the go-to guy who has all the answers. Excuse me, but that's ego. That's not going to let you grow. If you're the answer guy, the go-to guy that you need everyone to go to you before anything gets done, you will never be able to grow your business, and you probably shouldn't, because you will make life miserable for a lot of people, including yourselves. If you decide, I can't train, I can't grow, I can't, then you've decided you can't, and you might as well stay an individual. And a lot of people have, and a lot of people do. And it's based, but if you decide, listen, I can do this, and that person takes that manual home at night and says, go over what we just did today. Memorize this and this for tomorrow, and tomorrow I'll have a pop quiz for you. You see? And that's going to expedite that learning process. Then you say, well, we need now a procedure for hiring people. And how do I do it? Go talk to a hiring professional to develop a questionnaire that you ask every technician that is standardized. That we do this over the phone, then we do this interview in person, then you can have a ride-along day with me, and you can see if you like the business. And then after that process, then we can sit down and discuss if we want to hire you. Maybe you have a process where hiring the person, your wife gets to talk to them first. And then maybe you have a friend or two that, listen, I've made a decision of hiring this guy. What do you think? The crew, he gets to go out with the crew. And if you guys have certain standards and this person is a scatterbrain that can't figure out how to get things organized, he says, he's highly disorganized. He's not going to fit in with our culture. Then you can but everything is standardized in order to reduce the ambiguity and the confusion. And that is the key, my friend, to getting and growing through a process of a franchise process, a methodology, that whether you decide to franchise your business or not, whether you decide to grow your business past one truck, past one location, you have what it takes to be able to grow yourself. And that's where with me, the growth starts personally first. I can't help other people grow until I grow personally. And that is the key. So I thank you for listening. Again, the Pest Geek Podcast is on the web. We are also on iTunes and on Stitcher Radio. So if you've got an iPhone or an iPad or anything, iTunes is for you. And if you've got an Android device, you might want to listen to it and sign on to Stitcher Radio. And we're on there. And this is a weekly podcast. I try to make this every week, and we try to launch it on Mondays. We had a little technical difficulty with our site last week, and it was down for a bit, but we've got it back and going, and everything seems to be back to normal now. And hey, just wishing you guys a great week. Enjoy yourselves. Have a ton of fun. I'll see you next time. Thank you for listening to the Pest Geek Podcast. If you have enjoyed the Pest Geek Podcast, please give us a rating, write a review, or subscribe to the channel. You can join the Pest Geek Society by visiting pestgeekpodcast.com. Thank you for listening. See you next time.